All right, y'all. Welcome back to Industrial Marketing Live. Overcoming business challenges through marketing. Really excited about this presentation. I am Matt Chanella. I'm the strategy director for Gorilla 76. I have with me Joe Sullivan, who is the founder, one of the founders of Gorilla 76. And just real quick, I'm going to go over the agenda real quick, then we'll get into it. We'll try to get right into the meat of this as fast as possible. But real quick on who we are an industrial marketing agency that's focused on helping manufacturing and industrial companies generate new business through revenue. So real quick, let's go through the agenda. So we're going to talk about lacking awareness with ideal future customers, excuse me, that typo, filling pipeline with sales qualified leads, relying on referrals and trade shows to drive business. One of those is good and one of those is not. I'll explain why. Not connecting the dots between marketing spend and real business outcomes, and then missing cross-selling opportunities with existing customers. So we're going to kind of cover all of these in some detail. I really would love any questions that you all have that you see during the course of this webinar that hopefully will spark some ideas from you, or maybe some pushbacks, or just anything that you would be interested in seeing us maybe expand upon a little bit more. Please don't hesitate, let us know, and we'll definitely jump in, maybe bring you on and discuss it. So
Matt, before you leave this slide, like one thing I wanted to add was, these things here, like numbers 1 through 5, these are the things that we've been at this for 15 years. We've been in the industrial sector for about 10 years. And when you boil down the issues that people come to us with and say, this is what's going on in my business, like, or in the marketing side of our business, these are the biggest problems we're facing that we need help with. Like, these are the things. It kind of comes down to these. There are other things too, but and so we wanted to build on those and say, okay, well, let's address all that. Let's just talk about what role can marketing play? Why are people having these issues? How can you address them? So that's kind of the fuel for this, just as a little bit of context.
Well, also to add that this isn't necessarily something that we hear from marketers per se. It's actually what we hear from presidents, CEOs, and owners of these companies. So maybe you're not sensing people on this, these are challenges for you, maybe you do. I can promise you that your executive level team is thinking about this in regards to marketing. So we came up with these topics, and just to show you that we, eat our own dog food, it's on our website as well. It's on our Who We Help and How page, because these are the reasons why people contact us in the first place quite often. And these are the issues that they usually have. So I'm going to get started here. I'm going to first dive into the lacking awareness among ideal future customers. I always think this is very interesting because I usually push back or ask immediately, well, who is an ideal future customer for you? And where do you determine the answer to that question? And normally you'll see things that are like table stakes. And then you'll see things that if you dive deeper, maybe you'll discover like other trends about it. So when we talk about most ideal, most people look at it in terms of job title, company size, revenue, industries, geography. Like, we want to sell to production engineers of companies 100 to 1,000 in employee count that make at least $25 million in revenue because our solution's expensive, who work in the aviation industry and the automotive industry, and maybe we'll play a little bit in the oil and gas industry. And then we only want to sell in the US and Canada, right? And so that's how most companies will describe what an ideal future customer is. And these things are things you should be able to glean out of your CRM immediately to figure out. Like, you should be able to run pretty basic reports on opportunities and contacts tied to opportunities to figure out, well, who are our actual ideal customers based on what the sales data tells me. The other part of it is harder to define, which is why I wanted to put it in. And so the ideal future customers should be like, their desired future state, their specific challenge and how it fits your solution. How they convert on your website also gives a sense of how ideal they're going to be for you, because you look at high intent versus low intent versus assumed intent for people coming inbound. You'll see a very different, normally, metrics around how they get to opportunity, and then what they convert to in terms of customer. And then I also really like the jobs to be done framework theory, which is another good way to understand what your customer has to do on a day-to-day basis, how your solution fits into it, and then how you can communicate to your ideal future customer, having that sort of knowledge, qualitative knowledge in mind. So when I look at the left side of this as table stakes, and you should know this pretty much off the bat. It should be available in your Salesforce or your HubSpot or wherever it is you're doing CRM. The other part is harder to find. It takes more effort and investigation, but the gains for that will help you tremendously and give you an edge over most of your competitors. Anything to add to this, Joe?
No, I think you covered it pretty well there.
All right. Well, I got more slides like this, so I can keep going. So the other thing about how ideal gets decided, and this is something that I encountered in my career previously, is sales team feedback, CRM data, which I just mentioned, industry reports. So, American Welding Society, or Craig's here, the American Society of Safety Professionals, or the National Safety Council. Like, these industry reports are going to kind of tell you, what the state of the safety industry is. And then trade organizations similarly as well. Where I think ideal more likely can be decided through less aggregate kind of data and more, sustained effort to get good qualitative. So, the right side of this to me blends more of that qualitative aspects of it, plus the quantitative factors and all the different touch points and ways that your ideal future customers learn about you. So when you do cross-functional customer interviews, and when I say cross-functional, what I mean by that is, if you're able to do a customer interview and get those, like, you should put other people on it besides you. Like, put your VP of sales on it and say, look, we're just here to learn about our ideal customer and not necessarily to sell to them. And usually that second person will give you a chance to think about the feedback and ask follow-up questions, and also give each of you a chance to take notes and then compare afterwards. It's really hard, obviously. You obviously want to record those kinds of conversations, but it's really hard to sit there and just scribble notes and ask thoughtful questions, and scribble notes and just ask thoughtful questions. So, you want to make sure, if you can do these cross-functional interviews, bring a couple people into it. Surveying is really useful as well. That's where you kind of get more of that quantitative feedback, where you're able to ask people questions about, any social media profiles they use, what industry publications they follow, any podcasts they listen to, where they go to for advice. Are they part of any community groups? Like, getting some information about kind of their behaviors and kind of what is on their devices. Like, a really good question is like, what are the 3 or 4 most frequently visited apps on your mobile phone? Like, that should give you a good idea of like what your customer is kind of interested in, and then how you can communicate to them based off of that. Revenue intelligence, which is not a common thing in the industrial industry, but you have tools like Gong or Chorus AI that can record your sales team sales calls. If you have an SDR function and you're doing something like that, recording those calls, going through the notes, figuring out trends that you're going to notice. And then multiple levels of attribution is another one. So, attribution is very inherently flawed. If you look at any CRM, almost everything's going to score last touch. So you're going to see a tremendous amount of your inbound leads, whether you get 15 a month or 500, so much of them are going to come from direct and organic, and probably not necessarily reflect how they found you in the first place. So we become increasing advocates of using self-reported attribution on your forms. Literally, that's just putting a "how did you hear about us" function on your form. And while it's tempting to try to make that like a drop-down select, making that an open text field will actually give you better qualitative data for you to compare against the last touch. And it's really going to show you the gap that your CRM has, and probably capturing how people find out about you in the first place, and where you should really be placing bets and placing energy in your marketing program overall. Anything to add to that, Joe?
No, I'll talk when I've got something to add.
All right. You just jump in. Okay. All right. So when we talk about awareness, we also talk about how's awareness best gained. And so these are the things that I see very often on the right side. I see cold calling, trade shows. I was just talking with Craig before we started here, chatting with him about his trade shows, how he said one was dead and the other one he's kind of nervous about. And I've gotten mixed feedback on trade shows since they've started again. Uplead, ZoomInfo. So, the age of lead gen to me is largely kind of dead, mostly because of tools like Uplead and ZoomInfo, where it's very easy to acquire email addresses to go run sales executions at this point in time. So like if you're trying to run, ebook downloads from LinkedIn native lead gen forms or something like that, like there's just more efficient, better ways to get email addresses at this point. Most people download the ebook and don't even read it. In all honesty, LinkedIn direct messaging is someone who is active on LinkedIn quite a bit. I can tell you, I get more pitch slaps than I know what to do with. I don't remember any of their names or any of their companies. And if you're on LinkedIn and you're in the same boat, think about how often do you remember any of those pitches and how often any of them resonate with you? The answer is none of them do. And so, I mean, it's to me a lot of wasted effort. And then the other thing, if you're doing that lead gen and you're running these higher density email nurtures off of low intent lead gen, that is what I did a lot of 6-7 years ago. That doesn't work today at all. And the proof's in the pudding. You'll get a bunch of ebook downloads or white paper downloads or case study downloads, and it's going to look great. And then you're going to throw them in this automation nurture. And what's going to end up happening is none of them are like a microscopic percentage of them will get to opportunity, and an even more microscopic percentage of them will go to closed won. In terms of how things are best done, I'm looking at effective content distribution, a focused organic strategy, being where your customers are, and then committing to providing value over everything else. And so if the hardest things I see here are number 2 and then number 4. It's so easy, first off, on a focused organic strategy. The reason why people don't stay focused on it is because it takes too long to materialize for most executives to really get behind it. Yeah, you can run SEO, but I mean, the best organic strategies right now are being run on social or being run on podcasts or being run on webinar series like this, and then repurposing that content and then redistributing it and then remixing it and doing it over again. And most executives only want to give something like this 3 months, when in reality, you need to give something like this 9 months, 12 months. Sometimes, I mean, I had Lindsay Ojeda on my podcast 2 weeks ago. She talked about how her organic strategy to materialize 18 months. And so expectation setting in regards to an organic strategy for marketing, you have to be realistic about it. And you have to keep reiterating that timeline to your executive team. Otherwise, they're going to pull the plug on it way too premature. So commit to something with the right amount of research, give it the time to materialize, commit the right resources to it. And an organic strategy can work, but most companies aren't willing to put the time or the effort in to let it materialize. And that's why it ends up really not working. That's a big reason why we don't do a ton of organic strategies with our clients now, is because they don't have the patience to watch it work. And so we make content and then end up distributing it via paid because it's the quickest timeline to result for them. But for the most part, the organic side is just, there's just not enough time, effort, or energy in order to watch that materialize fully.
Yeah, I do have a build on this too, Matt.
Sure.
I think something we talk about a lot internally and with our clients is a kind of bullet point number 1 over on the left, the effective content distribution. Like, here's the thing, a very small percentage of probably any of your audiences is buying right now. We talk about this all the time. Like, if you think of your total addressable market in maybe one of your verticals you target, or a product category or whatever it is, when you think about that whole audience, for most of you, a very small percentage of them is actually buying right now. And you're not going to change their mind in most cases and convince them they need to buy something that they don't need right now. And so, this is one of the reasons why that patience is required, because, people will go to Google when they'll go to the referral network, they'll go to Google when they are actually in buying mode. But the reason you need to go out there and distribute content to the rest of your audience who's not buying right now is because they're not going to Google until they're ready. So I just think that it's a conversation I find myself having time and time again with our clients, and it's such a logical thing. but you can't just sit back and wait for people to show up. You have to go out there with a content distribution strategy so you can reach people who aren't in buying mode right now, but will be in a week or a month or a year. And you have to earn their attention. You have to earn their trust so that when they are entering a buy cycle and they go to Google and you show up, they already know your name. There's some trust there already, or even better, they just pick up the phone and call you because they're already familiar with you.
Right. For sure. Yeah, that's definitely the key. Is you want to win before they ever even get to Google in the first place. Like if they're searching that product, you've probably not done your job correctly, or you've missed the opportunity to influence and build affinity for your company. And so a lot of that involves hard things like putting a human face on your company, being consistent out there, committing to providing value over everything else. So having a point of view on your category, distributing that point of view, explaining the risks of not adapting to change or your point of view, and then getting into some of the benefits of going with a solution like yours or your solution and what your ethos is. Like it all kind of starts there, and you get people to rally around that point, and you will find a plurality of your market will get behind it and want to work with you as a result. All right, let's get into the kind of next sections. That's kind of the part of generating awareness. That's problem one. Problem two is I can't fill pipeline with qualified leads. And so I'm talking a lot about, oh, well, you got to take a long-term approach, and marketing is a compounding investment over time. These are things I tell people all the time, whether that's people I talk to on the side or people I do discovery calls with, like compounding investment over time. But, you need quick wins. You need something that's going to help in the immediacy in terms of showing results and showing and basically trying to garner faith in your program. Right. And so to me, I think it's extremely important to recognize when it comes to quick wins, there's only a couple options out there for you to get quick wins by. Like if you hear your executive ever tell you we need some quick wins, say there's really only a few things we can do, because if you ask me, there really is only about 3 things. So I'm going to go through these 3 things in detail here, and hopefully you'll find something illuminating here. I would encourage you to look at your own CRM after checking this out and seeing if you all have a similar issue. So first off, the options are these 3, in my opinion, bar none: conversion rate optimization, a better follow-up on your current lead flow, and then using paid search as a way to get people quickly in pipeline. We've done plenty of things on paid search. We've done two webinars on paid search. I would encourage you to check this out. If you haven't, I will talk about some of those in a little bit. I'm more interested in the top 2 here for this particular webinar or presentation, and so I want to kind of get into it a little bit. So when I talk about filling your pipeline up with qualified leads, I mean, this is Gorilla's own Google Analytics looking at it. This is our last 30 days. Okay, I went through this yesterday. And I was going through our request consultation. We have 4 over the last 30. Well, if you look at overall our sort of sessions and then our conversion rate, it's 0.12%. And so immediately what I'm thinking there is like, well, maybe we need to look at a little bit different on the conversion rate optimization and what changes could we possibly make? So if you have goals set up in analytics, it's easy to look at this kind of data and then figure out changes that you want to make. And so if you can say and look at this and go, okay, I'm getting 3,300 hits to my website a month and I've converted 4 total, maybe I need to look a little bit at what I'm saying on my homepage and some of my key pages and wonder if my message is resonating enough or not. And so I did this. So I go into your homepage for your company. I did this for Gorilla, just kind of thinking about it a little bit. And I'm looking, well, what are some things that I could do differently here that maybe could give me a lift here? Because like 0.12, I would like to be at 0.5%. That's kind of what I benchmark myself for with a lot of my clients. And so I'm looking at maybe making a more knife twisting value proposition around the industrial marketing agency. Maybe that secondary headline needs to be a little bit more of a twist of the knife for some of the people that we're courting. Maybe the CTA at the top right needs to be more clear. Maybe it being transparent isn't clear enough. That's the request consultation page. I would probably look at heat map data to see if people are actually clicking through there. And then the other thing is like maybe the CTA in the middle, the primary CTA should be more specific, and then a secondary CTA maybe want to be added. That's just going to be a repeat of that consultation requests. So I would be looking at, if I'm you and I'm looking at my website conversion metrics and I'm saying, I only have 4 in the last 30 days and I'm driving 3,300 people to my website a month, I'm probably looking at this and going, I need to test or try something big on my homepage in order to see if I can drive more conversions. And then you should honestly look at other elements of your copy too. But this is just for the purpose of this exercise. I wanted to be pretty succinct. These are the things that I would be starting with immediately to try to get more conversion rate optimization. So I just think looking at that metric in your analytics, or if you have HubSpot, you can do it there, is going to tell you immediately whether you need to make a change there or not, and it's going to help you get quick wins. Okay. Next up, I want to do is improve follow-up with leads, which is just the bane of my existence across my previous life and my current life. So I can't tell you how many times I see like pretty good quality leads with intent come in who don't get followed up on in a timely manner, let's just say. So here's a form submission. This is actually from a HubSpot instance that we work in. I've redacted everything here except for like a little bit of information, so you can see the intent behind the comment and then the date that the lead was created. So this lead got made on September 23rd. That's a Thursday, by the way, at 8:56 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. So really right as this person started work, he went to this website and said he's doing blister pack samples and he's going to run this and he's got to put the budget together and wants the price on a package. Cool. Fairly high intent lead with a very specific problem that you guys could work with. So I went and I wanted to see, well, when did he get followed up with? Well, I go to the HubSpot instance and I'm like, all right, well, he got followed up on in 96 hours. And so that to me would just be ringing like all kinds of alarms. So the form submit was on 8:56 a.m. The follow-up was logged the 27th of September. So after the weekend at 8:51 a.m. So these are the kinds of examples to me that would be like, oh gosh, we need to do something about this. So look at your lead follow-up and then bring this sort of information to your sales director or whoever runs your inside sales program and say, this needs to get better. We need to track time to lead. Yes, Craig, sales did follow up with this lead. This particular instance had to have an SDR function who's supposed to follow up with these kinds of leads. So this would drive me nuts. And I would certainly make sure that you all are looking at that. So you think 96 hours is really bad, but actually the average response for a lead from any company, regardless of industry, is 42 hours per the Harvard Business Review. So it's not just that company who made that kind of error in instance. It's most companies do a really poor job of doing this. So looking at your time to lead, just go through your last month worth of data, go through all your high intent leads and go see what that response is. Honestly, even getting it saying, I mean, I see 30 there from Allison, 10 minutes, it exponentially increases your potentiality of getting a deal out of that. Cause like, you have to know how people operate here, right? They've already forgotten they put this request form in by the time they get followed up with. If you don't follow up within a day, they've already gone and found another competitor who's willing to work with them more fast. Like speed to lead is such a crucial component of getting more out of your existing pipeline. Pay special attention to it and beat down the door in regards to getting better at it. I did see a question here that I wanted to, from Courtney. When you're making CRO changes, do you recognize Google Optimize to help test a subset of the website audience to gauge whether the change was impactful and which variable actually helped improve those numbers? My answer to this, Courtney, is it would depend on how much traffic you get to your website. If you're getting 2,000, 3,000 hits to your site a month, I don't think testing a subset is going to make much difference for you. Now, if you're a website that gets, 5 figures, 10,000 hits, even like 8,000, and so you're going to get a good sample size, I think it's a better choice at that point. Otherwise, I would just test the whole website, or I would just test it with your whole audience and just have it. I mean, if you test in 30-day, in like a 30-day time window, you're going to probably figure it out as long as like you're accounting for anything like seasonality or anything like that. So I would say yes to use Google Optimize if you have enough traffic to your website that would merit that, and it would be able to and you'd be able to get enough of a sample size. I think largely for most websites out there that are getting under 5,000 a month, I would just run the change and just kind of see how it takes. Any feedback on that from you, Joe? You good? No? All right. Okay. So, all right. So improving lead time, obviously a big thing that you can do. Google ads or Bing ads, obviously another thing that you can do. This is more of a shortcut than even doing the work around conversion optimization and improved lead flow follow-up. But I like using, I mean, obviously Google ads is a really good way to go and try to fill up pipeline for yourselves. I think where I see a lot of companies go wrong is the focus on broad match. They drive too many keywords. They put too much money in branded search, or they look at branded search as a sign that it's successful. I honestly think doing well in branded search is table stakes. You should do branded search in all honesty, but it's a little bit of fool's gold. So really going after those high intent keywords around companies or suppliers, or like my category plus company, my category plus supplier, my category plus business, my category plus solution, whatever it is. That's where, you'll find probably better results for yourself. Another thing to add, I've always been a huge advocate of this. I will say on every single thing I ever do, whether it's a podcast or a presentation like this, like optimize your landing page experience for the channel. So if Google ads is supposed to be more direct response, more capture demand, make it super stupid, simple, and easy for people to convert on that page. Do not bid on a keyword and send them to your homepage unless you're bidding on your branded keywords. Send them to a specific page around that ad group that's focused and tightly written for it. Make that conversion point or that form or that call to action button to go to the form really easy to find and click. Fill it up with good content. Invite people to link out to visit other pages of your website. You do not want to make a squeeze page. Keep that header and footer on, and then watch it perform. Like we've been doing this for clients now for like 6 months. I honestly want to do my own industrial marketing live on kind of the aggregate data that we have around our Google ads and our LinkedIn ads and stuff like that. But hopefully I'll be able to do that in a short period of time. But it works. Like the lead flow comes in pretty strong. Opportunities do come through doing that, and the dollar spent per pipeline money generated is consistently in the double digits. I just did it for one client, and they were getting something like $33 in pipeline for every dollar spent on Google ads. So yes, it works.
Matt, I think you presented here 3 different ways to get to quick wins. And I think the common thread among them, the things you've talked about here are conversion rate optimization on your website. You talked about replying quickly to, form submissions, quote requests, and then running ads around high intent keywords. The common thread here is with all 3 of these approaches, you are targeting people who are in buying mode right now.
Yep.
And that's it. So if you're told to get quick wins, your job is to go figure out who is buying right now and to get in front of them, or more effectively, or make sure that, especially if they're already on your website, in the case of, the CRO recommendation or the replying more quickly recommendation, like they're already on your website. And so you're trying to focus on who is buying now versus the rest of your audience, where you're going to have to build awareness, educate, build trust. That's where it's the longer play. Don't go there now. If your boss is saying we need quick wins over the next 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I get to that point here in a little bit, but I think for any marketer who's on this with us right now, like you can't go long term until you get the short term right, because you're just not going to get the leash to try long term, right? I mean, this is just an inconvenient truth. Yeah. I kind of skipped a slide here, but I think I like to look at here is, if you're looking at your inbound, your direct and organic, and you're looking at your conversion rate, we just went back to the grill example. This is another instance, a different instance where they're converting 0.21% of their website visitors. And it's like, oh, well, while I work on conversion optimization, maybe I should go run Google ads at the same time with a dedicated landing page to see if it works. Well, if you do that, if you're counting the traffic instances that would impact your Google ads, which would primarily be the paid search if you're using UTM tags appropriately, but let's mix in direct for the sake of it, because if you look at multi-conversion funnels, you'll see a lot of people end up going to your website twice to convert. I mean, yeah, sure, I'm converting at twice the efficiency. And if you honestly take out the direct portion of it, I mean, Google ads can perform at 3x the efficiency of your direct traffic. So, remember, you're looking at ratio here more so than volume, and that ratio allows you to make good educated decisions around what's going to be most efficient for your marketing program. Getting into shifting from lead gen to demand gen, which is sort of the last part of building pipeline and qualified leads. So most people have probably seen this funnel before, but the lead gen shift is what most people have been doing for, since predictable revenue from Salesforce back in like 2008. Which is this. It's like, let's do ebooks, let's get white paper downloads, let's hit up every single one of you after this webinar presentation. Everyone who's here, I'm going to follow up with you with the sales call and ask you to hop on a discovery call with me. Let's look at all those trade show badge scans that we get, where you're one of 50, if not 100 companies who scan this person's badge is going to get the exact same follow-up cadence. And then let's also do follow-up scoring off of, MQLs, because this guy visited our website twice. And so I scored him up to 50 and now he gets passed to my rep. So this is like a high volume, low efficiency model primarily. So you look at this, you get 500 leads to get one customer, and that's a 0.2% lead to customer ratio. That's pretty brutal. Whereas the shift to demand gen is predicated on higher efficiencies and lower volumes. So you can get 50 leads where you focus your activity around quote request, demo request, pricing info, contact us. And you can get 5 customers from that, which is like a 10% lead to customer ratio. I just did this audit with a client this week. They were converting 14% of their lead. We're running this model on the right. They got 123 inbound conversions. They converted 18 of them into opportunities. So that was about a 14% conversion. And so what this is predicated off of is simply just being more efficient with your time and your sales reps' time as well. So they can focus more on expanding current customers, working existing deals, and then doing maybe a little bit more around like kind of like account-based or key accounts. And so why is this important? Because a 10% conversion rate versus a 0.2% conversion rate is a 50 times more efficient marketing program. And so this basically makes way better use of your lead flow. This makes it so when sales people get leads, they actually want to follow up with them because they actually have a chance of making it into a customer. And this allows you to go to your executive and say, well, look, we're spending this much and we're getting this much, and we have a predictable model here. If we put this much more in, we probably could increase it because we could test other channels and figure more stuff out. And so when we talk about capturing demand, to go back to that, we're talking about conversion optimization, direct response advertising, and then improving the sales follow-up. And then when we talk about creating demand, it's all about effective content distribution, focusing on high quality conversions, mobilizing your audience around a POV. That would be like your organic content strategy. And then holistic measurement, which I think is another thing to consider. When you're running paid ads, especially on paid social, you should be looking at direct traffic, branded organic traffic, things that fit your ICP, and then looking at your ad spend holistically. It's a way better way to look at how effective it is than just looking at it through how many LinkedIn leads did I get this month? Because if you're not running direct response LinkedIn, it's impossible to tell that in its true story unless you account for what you're marketing towards. Also, using that self-reported attribution can help tell that story for you. It'll help bridge that gap between the last touch that your CRM tells you and how your client or future customer actually found you when they went to your website.
Quick story to illustrate what you just said. We have I've got a call set up in about a week with what looks like a great opportunity for Gorilla. Well, this particular person, there was a conversion on our site. It showed up as organic search. Well, I looked, and we're running running campaigns on LinkedIn for ourselves, distributing. I distributed a video about, it was me talking about why the manufacturing sector has to shift their mindset about the role marketing needs to play. And this video was liked and commented. The paid, the promoted post was liked and commented on by someone at that same company. And I connected the dots there and said, okay, this person who works under him, he was like a sales director. Well, the marketing manager, the junior marketing manager, is the one who actually converted on our site, showed up as organic search. And I said, how did you find us? And she said, oh, my boss, this guy was the one who commented on the ad, told me to call you guys because he saw some video somewhere out there that you guys recorded. And so like, I mean, you're not going to have that insight every single time, but it's sort of a microcosm of what's going on here. We distributed this piece of content to a very specific audience. This sales director saw it, told his marketing person to call us. She Google searched Gorilla 76, showed up on our site, filled out the form. So this is where I think attribution gets really, really messy and why you have to look holistically at what's going on.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, one more slide here on this. So when it comes to creating demand, I just want to reiterate this for anyone who's listening and is listening here. It's a long-term investment that needs long-term expectations. It is a 6 to 18 month process. Like 6 months, it's closer to 6 to 9 on the paid side. On the organic side, like it's 18 months. Like it's 12 to 18 months. It takes a ton of time to create a content strategy, a sustainable, repeatable content strategy where you have great feedback loops and you're using the right people and leveraging them correctly in your distribution and you're figuring out the right channels. Like that stuff takes a lot of time. So you need to set expectations around it and make sure that your company is willing to invest that time. Otherwise, you're going to be having to use other channels to accelerate. You have to start with capture before you can create. Like going back to the earlier part, you need to be able to squeeze the most from the orange or the citrus of what you currently are getting on your website in terms of conversion optimization, better follow-up, and then Google Ads to help augment you a little bit to start with. And then understand measurement will not be clean. Look for incremental gains and gains in efficiency. So incremental gains in qualified pipeline, incremental gains in velocity, incremental gains in like lead to SQL percentage or lead to opportunity percentage or lead to close one deal percentage. Like those are going to be the sorts of things you want to look for. Volume may fluctuate month to month. Efficiency is definitely where you want to see the most gains in general. Was that useful for you guys? I hope it was. Any questions you have on that, let me know. I'm going to jump to relying on trade shows and referrals to drive business. I was just at FabTech 2 weeks ago and I was walking through it, and I exhibited at FabTech 4 times in my career and have walked it other times too. And I was really struck. It was shocking what that floor looked like. And so I'm going to kind of get into a little bit to the diminishing return of the trade show here, because I wrote something about this a few months ago. It still really applies to me, because if you look at trade shows, its goal should be to, if you're going to invest in the booth and you're going to invest in bringing all the people into the booth, like all your sales team and your executive team, and you're going to spend money on dinners and spend thousands of dollars on hotels, you want to see new business out of it, right? I mean, existing business should be something your sales team should be able to do without the booth investment. Walk the show, take those key pipeline opportunities out to dinner, or invest, maybe not what you're going to invest, but invest less in an experience for them instead. So I want to go over real quick, sort of, this is my own metrics. I remember running this at Binzel when I was doing trade shows, and was just struck at how inefficient trade shows were for us. So our booth experience was about $230,000 all in. And then we had about 40,000 attendees to guarantee to go to the show. 40,000 is what Society of Manufacturing Engineers promised me. Well, we would scan about 300 badges. And so if you do the math on that, it's about $766 per badge scan. When you think about that, that's a lot of money to just scan a badge. We created maybe 5 new business opportunities for it, with the cost per opportunity being $46,000, $230,000 divided by 5. And then we would end up winning one of those new deals so that win rate was 25%. And let's say the total value of that deal, which was usually not the case for us, it was usually more like 40, 35, 45,000, 125 grand. Well, I just lost $105,000 of my budget on that trade show investment. So I think when you look at what you're doing with your trade show, like you need to ruthlessly look at it in terms of what is it producing for a business outcome? Because if I could take the $230,000, hire another person, and then invest a ton in ads to distribute my content better and get better coverage 365 days a year, I would opt to do that because I know I could get more out of that. Also, I know I have a better chance of standing out. So looking at the trade show experience, I'm always struck at how few people look at the economics of it. And this is just a sample from my experience in Minzel. This is something we did year over year over year. I still got overruled when wanting to either cut back on the booth or not do the trade show at all. But they still got this report every 6 months after the show from me, and just kind of had to base the music on it. So I say this to say that companies spend a lot on trade shows expecting to get a lot of deals out of it. And they probably don't look at it in terms of new business and existing business or expansion business. And if you looked at it as new business one, which is what you should be judging marketing activities by, it would be a colossal waste of money. If you put that in the sales team's bucket and said they were accountable for new business from this trade show investment, I guarantee you they would be far less excited about going to it as well. Anything to add there? No? Okay. All right, sorry. I didn't mean to like crush trade shows. I do like trade shows and attending them and walking them. And I like being there. I like the energy. But as someone who had to exhibit at the show and run that, it's a miserable experience and it's a huge waste of money. It's much better to take a portion of that budget and invest it in other ways around the trade show. Like go rent a bar out next door and invite a bunch of people to it. Like there's just better things you could do with that money. All right. The effectiveness of the referral. Now, referrals are tremendous, are tremendous investments for your company, which I don't feel like a lot of manufacturing companies actually do. They don't have a referral program in place. And why do I say this? Well, if you look at the conversion, the opportunity to deal conversion rate, like the referral does way better than probably most other channels. And yet most companies don't actually have a mechanism in place to drive referrals. According to Nielsen, people are 4 times more likely to buy when referred by a friend. And so I think the sort of the ethos that exists amongst industrial people is people hate to tell trade secrets. They hate to tell who they're using. And they think it's bothersome to ask people to refer. And so, which I would say you probably don't have a really good strategy or program around it. You're just kind of kicking it around and you haven't formalized necessarily a process around it. So, and that's supported by some data points here that I want to share. Only 3 in 10 companies, this is across all industries, not manufacturing, have a referral program in place. 83% of consumers are willing to refer a positive experience, but only 29% actually do. And then just qualitatively speaking, referral leads are trusted backing from a current customer, meaning people who do come from referral are more likely to be qualified, have a positive feeling about your company, and are much more likely to want to work with you than people who come from more anonymous sources, let's just say. So with that, to me, putting together an effective referral program is one, have somebody own it at your company. Like, putting in, saying we want a referral program is great. Say you're responsible for it, and then give it, let's like any other program you put in place, give it time to mature and bear fruit. And don't kill it after 3 months. It's just, you won't be successful doing anything like that. When you put the program in place, like cash incentives are fine, or non-cash incentives. Don't feel dirty compensating for a referral, whether that's a gift card or, giving them maybe some free stuff as a result, or maybe like entering them in a contest or making a donation on their behalf even is another really good thing to do as kind of a compensation for the referral. So incentivizing referrals is totally fair game. Just find creative ways to do it that maybe won't make you feel so dirty or will make that person feel like they're doing something good by referring a friend to your company. Ask more than once. I think there's always this issue where we ask once and then we don't want to ask again. And then also people also usually ask too late in the process. Like probably the time to ask is like really soon after they get their product and they're like immediately very excited and happy to have it and it's operating real well for you, like that's the time where you want to hit them with the, hey, do you have anyone else in your network or that you work with in the past professionally who's still in the business who you think maybe could use us as well? We definitely would compensate you for your time for referring them. Like find the right time to ask for the referral and then ask again if they forget or if they don't give you a hard no. And then again, dedicating somebody will exponentially increase the likelihood of success here. And you're more likely to see returns from a referral program as a result. So when executives tell us like they're relying on referrals, that's actually a good thing. What they actually should do is figure out a way to processize, formalize, and make that even more effective for them over time, as opposed to just lamenting how they're kind of randomly come to them. It's actually a really good lever to pull in order to get pipeline into your company. So key takeaways for me, do hard math on your trade show investments. Look at new and existing business. And I'll tell you that $230,000 I mentioned didn't even account for travel costs, per diems, or anything like that. So you factor that in, it was more like $270,000. So make sure you factor those sorts of things in when it comes to what is the true cost of my trade show. And then look at the potential of a referral program, establish an owner at the company level, whether that's you or maybe someone in maybe the customer success or customer service manager could lead that program. And then create tools like dedicated landing pages or promotional material and use incentives to compel people or motivate people to ask existing customers to refer potentially new customers into your business. All right. With that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to Joe because I talked for 47 straight minutes and I feel like I need a break and Joe needs some time on this. So Joe, I will turn it over to you.
All right, cool. Is that showing?
That is showing.
Okay. All right. So reason number 4 of 5 that, we see manufacturing organizations, coming to us or issues they're having, and they're not connecting the dots between their marketing spend and real business outcomes. And I think there are, I kind of just broke this down simply into 5 possible reasons why they're not making that connection. 1, you're doing the wrong stuff. 2, you're doing the right stuff, but you're doing it ineffectively. 3, you don't have the right measurement systems in place. 4, you're taking a nearsighted approach. And 5, you're not looking holistically at your marketing program's impact. So we've kind of hit on a few of these things, but I'm going to kind of breeze through these so we can, keep going. I don't want to spend too much time. So you're doing the wrong stuff. Might be one of these reasons you're not connecting the dots between your marketing spend and business outcomes. We just hit on this. I don't have to keep going, but ask yourself these questions. What's your trade show spend? What's your print ad spend? Everybody we talk to is at least at first they're spending some percentage of their budget on print ads because they feel like it's just sort of, it's a pay for play. Like we need to at least spend this $5K a month on these ads just to, keep a relationship with these trade shows or just so people kind of know we're out there. And when we almost always are going to push back there. How is marketing being asked to quote unquote support sales? The mindset shift is one of the biggest things that we try to make happen when we start working with a new client, because you have, the perception that the job of the marketing person in the company is we're going to make these materials, these print materials to support sales. We're going to work on, stuff for the trade show. We're going to keep the website looking nice. Fine. Like if that's part of the job, fine. But we need to shift the mindset that, marketing is there to build pipeline. And so I think like, you think of all of these things and for whatever reason, rarely do these things get scrutinized. I mean, Matt, you showed your example, your mathematical model from FabTech back at your Binzel days. Like the math's there, there's no ROI there, but nobody's questioning that yet. It's always getting questioned. Like, what is this ad spend online or our content marketing spend actually for us? And that actually is a lot more measurable in a lot of cases, so it's kind of it's sort of just an odd thing that we see often.
I've never seen people scrutinize $20,000 more in their life than they do on digital ad spend compared to what they scrutinize in the $200,000 some people I've seen spend on print ads or $250,000 they spend on trade shows. It's just, I don't understand where the expectation comes from all the time. But it's it's pretty interesting to watch how much that kind of spend gets scrutinized.
Second reason, maybe you're not connecting the dots. You're doing the right stuff, but you're doing it ineffectively. Can't tell you how many times we hear this. Well, we already tried Facebook and it didn't work, or whatever. Literally, you could replace Facebook and fill in the blank with anything. Content marketing. We tried content marketing. It didn't really work for us. We tried Google ads, LinkedIn, and organic outbound emails, cold calls, direct mail, standing outside people's buildings and shouting at them with megaphones. Like, I don't care what it is. You got to stop blaming the channel, because a lot of times that's what's happening. It's so often it comes down to how well you're actually executing that activity. So that's a hurdle we often have to overcome in early conversations with someone we're consulting on, where they've already thrown out a channel because we tried that and it didn't work. Did you try it, or did you actually go into this strategically? Did you go in with the right budget? Did you go in and with the right information to develop the right messaging that's actually going to resonate? Where you focus? There's so much there. So a lot of times it's this. You might be doing some of the right stuff, but you're not approaching it strategically. Reason number 3 that you may not be connecting the dots between marketing spend and business outcomes. You don't have the right measurement systems in place. I mean, we got a lot of smart marketing people on this in this webinar. Often I'm talking to CEOs or presidents who don't really understand marketing, frankly, but like, you got to have the marketing software in place. You got to have the CRM in place, and they need to be talking to each other. If you don't have the systems to measure in the first place, how are you going to be able to connect the dots? And even when you do, I mean, Matt, how many times do we see these pieces in place, but the information going back and forth, or the way the software is configured, it's just not giving us any real insights into what's actually going on.
Yeah, I mean, often you see a lot of companies who want to, or more than one, to invest $50,000 in Salesforce, but investing $15,000 in HubSpot, for instance, is just not worth it to them, when that really helps connect your marketing dots overall. So I think a lot of it comes down to how much they value marketing and the measurement of marketing, and how effectively can we measure marketing. Well, Salesforce in terms of measuring your marketing effectiveness is very, very limited. And you need a marketing automation platform, or MAP, in place like HubSpot in order to really dive in and see how effective your programs are doing. It's the best way to pass data back and forth.
Sure. Reason number 4, you may not connect the dots. You're taking a nearsighted approach. I think we kind of beat this one to death in some of your slides, Matt, but we tried SEO for a few months and didn't see a positive ROI.
We tried everything for a few months and didn't see positive ROI.
Again, it's another one of those. You could take the word SEO and replace it with LinkedIn ads, demand generation programs, like whatever. But I'm just going to keep using that little blown up emoji, but you need to set expectations properly. I said this earlier, most of your audience is not in buying mode right now. And if that's the case, you got to go capture demand where it exists. We talked about that. Matt covered that. But the rest of your audience is going to require patience. Like, that's the reality. You can't start a new SEO effort from scratch, or a new paid social effort from scratch, and think that 3 months down the road you're going to see overwhelming results in terms of business outcomes. Leading metrics, sure, yeah. I mean, you should be seeing, is there engagement with my content? Are we starting to drive some traffic to the right pages? Is time on page good for those pages that we're driving them to? There's things you're looking at, but if we're talking about connecting to revenue, and then the other thing is we really didn't talk about is what's the length of your sales cycle. If I remember, Matt, I won't name the client, but a client that we worked with, for about a year ago, and they, their sales cycle was 9 months long, and we started this program from scratch, and they were wondering why they weren't connecting revenue 5 months into that program. You're not going to outpace your sales cycle with a brand new marketing program. And so you got to look at that too, and make sure the people that you're reporting to are looking at that with a clear lens. It'd be the same thing if you started I've heard you say this, Matt, like if you started a brand new salesperson on your team, and you've got a 9-month sales cycle, they're not going to be selling something. They're not going to be closing deals 6 months in.
No, they'll struggle for 6 months.
Right?
Yeah, I watched this at Benzo. We onboarded sales guy after sales guy after sales guy. The best ones didn't get up and running for 6 months.
Sure.
And the worst ones sometimes took 15. It's just like, and that's just sometimes like, if you're expecting marketing to outpace, your best salesperson, it's just an unrealistic expectation that you're putting on it. So I think looking at the totality of your investment in marketing is something that's important to do, and having realistic expectations on timeline to revenue. That's why I talk a lot about, get those quick wins. Those will give you a lot of leash on the long-term things that will pay more dividends for you down the road. You just need to get those short-term things right, and then you'll get a time to run those long-term programs, and then you'll be able to create something really special.
Yep, I agree. And then you kind of just said this, and I think we've kind of hit on it, but you're not looking holistically at your marketing program's impact. Type of thing we hear often. Well, we can't directly attribute revenue to our podcast episodes, or fill in the blank again, right? So it's not worth doing. Now, I used the example a few minutes ago on one of your slides, Matt, when I talked about the person who appeared through organic, through the form fill, but learned that her boss had actually seen a video we had distributed in front of people with these job titles, including him, on LinkedIn, and told her to request a consultation with us. And there's a lot of this stuff going on. That's a microcosm of a lot of things that are going on if you're taking sort of a holistic multi-channel approach. But so things you need to be looking at are the right people engaging with your content. Like a metric that I love, when our team, Aaron and Grace, report back to me on like what's going on in our marketing program, I like to look at all the video content we're distributing. What percentage of people are looking at how many people are looking at 75% or more, or actually sitting around and watching 75% or more of a 3-minute video we're running? That's meaningful. There's no revenue metric associated with that. But when I see that, a few hundred people that are in my exact target audience are consuming 3 minutes of me talking about why marketers why the manufacturing sector has to shift their mindset about the role of marketing, like that means something. And I can only assume that these people are, when they see the next piece of content, they're probably going to look at it too, because they just watched that one for 3 minutes and stuck around. So all this stuff works together, and you're not going to be able to attribute everything. Our qualified opportunities and pipeline growing. Matt, you kind of hit on this, right? Like in time, you're looking at the bigger picture metrics, and are they trending up as a whole? Because if the thing that's changed is you have implemented this new marketing program, well, that's the main variable in terms of what has changed. And all of a sudden opportunities are starting to grow. Like you might not be able to always connect the dots between a specific activity and revenue, but you kind of have to look at it all together. So that's really that one. This last and final piece here, I'll hit quickly. The things we hear, well, we're missing cross-selling opportunities with existing customers. We hear this from clients. My take on this is like, always be creating value for your customers. When you're designing a marketing program, it shouldn't just be for people who don't know you and don't work with you yet. Like there's no reason why your existing customers can't be part of your target as you think about your distribution channels: email, social, webinars, lunch and learns. I know that a lot of our existing and past clients read the emails that we send out every 2 weeks, which are purely educational. We're not selling anything. We are providing insight and ideas and strategies. Webinars, lunch and learns. Like if you're running webinars like we are here, can you bring that down to, and make sure your customers are attending, or do special ones for them? Include them as you target on paid social. So the value you're creating should not just be for people who don't know you yet. And I think, the key here is less first person pronouns, less like, if you're sending out emails, let's not send out emails that talk about, how awesome the company picnic was, and list all the new customers you just won. Create value just as you would in a sales conversation or through the marketing content you're creating. It needs to be that. It needs to be about them, not you. And I just threw a screenshot in here, but we help our clients do this. Like try to actually create value through their outbound, or like through not their outbound emails, but their email marketing, and by putting on webinars and et cetera. So I think I can stop there, Matt, and throw it back to you.
Well, I mean, obviously I want to open up to any questions y'all have. If you have any, we can go back to that last slide. I got a bunch of resources for you guys as well to check out at the end. I'm not seeing any questions though. I was stopping the one that we got from Courtney earlier. Appreciate it, Courtney. Thank you so much. So yeah, I mean, we can, if there's nothing left here, seriously, if anyone has any cues, just drop them in the chat or drop them in the Q&A and I'd be happy to answer anything y'all have. But you can go to the last slide real quick and we'll go over some of the resources real quickly. So I got resources on those referral marketing stats, those conversion rates, the short life of the online sales lead. It's a really fascinating Harvard Business Review article that I would recommend reading. Trade show unit economics. There's a question from Aaron. Did you talk about self-attribution? I did. So one thing that we are increasingly adopting across our clients right now is the idea of self-attribution, where you literally just add a full field on your form that's a free text that says, how did you hear about us? And it's really just a way to mine the gap between the last touch attribution and how people actually found out about you. And they're going to, that self-report attribution, the reason you do that as a free text field is because they'll probably put in multiple things. So they'll put in like Facebook ads plus asked a friend, or, was in this like entrepreneur product Facebook community group and was asking who they use for labels or something like that, right? So it's very interesting to kind of see that at work, and it allows you to really make bets and understand where people discover you and where they discover you, and will help you determine where you need to be in terms of your marketing efforts and what channels you need to be placing bets on. So it's a good thing to just put right up against your last touch attribution, which is overwhelmingly going to show organic and direct traffic as the source. And that's going to show a lot of the gaps that's not going to figure out for you. All right, Jackie, thanks so much for your note. I appreciate that. Hopefully that answered your question, Aaron. Any other questions real quick? We got a couple minutes. If not, yes, to answer the kind of perfunctory questions, yes, you'll get a copy of this deck, and we'll definitely send this recording out tomorrow, but I'm not seeing any more questions, Joe. So I think we can wrap it here. I just want to just shout out all the people who come month after month to Industrial Marketing Live. I just really appreciate the time you guys give us, and the trust you give us, and our knowledge, and the trust that we'll share it responsibly with you. And really, if you all are implementing any of the stuff that we're talking about in Industrial Marketing Live or anywhere else you're hearing, hit me up on LinkedIn and send me a DM. I would love to hear what you're doing and what you're seeing success with and what you're struggling with. I've had people reach out to me after these webinars for some one-on-one help, and I'm more than happy to do that. So if you have anything you want me to go over with you, I've done that before for people who've been a part of these, and I'm more than happy to do so. So don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm really, really, really like doing that. I find it very interesting. So with that, we will have another Industrial Marketing Live next month. I don't have the topic figured out yet, but I will figure one out. And then we will send out to you guys, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one as well. With that, let's wrap, Joe. So Joe, first off, thanks so much for being part of this with me. It was a lot of fun. And we'll send you guys all these assets by tomorrow. Wish you all a great rest of your week. And please reach out if you have any questions or anything you want to go over with us, man. Y'all do well now.
Thanks, everybody.